Welcome to our review of the Exam 6 syllabus reading, Reinsurance Accounting, Schedule F. This video will be the first of several covering this article. Now before we begin, we'd like to share with you an overview of what we will be covering and what we will leave for you to review on your own. The goal of these videos are to best prepare you to answer questions adeptly that are likely to appear on the CAS Part 6 exam associated with the content in this article and related articles. And so, let's begin with a cursory look at the types of questions you can expect to see on the CAS exam from this article. In question 19 from the 2012 exam, we're given various types of recoverables, amounts in dispute, amounts received from reinsurers in the last 90 days, etc., for an authorized reinsurer and an unauthorized reinsurer, and we're asked to compute the company's Schedule F provision for reinsurance. We're also asked various questions about the company's best estimate of uncollectible reinsurance, and another question about the limitations of using the provision for reinsurance as a tool for monitoring the company's solvency. Take note that the points associated with these last three questions account for the majority of the points associated with the question. In question 19 from the 2011 exam, we are given nearly the same information as that given to us in question 19 from the 2012 exam. We're asked to calculate the company's Schedule F provision for reinsurance and to describe how the provision for reinsurance impacts statutory surplus and the risk-based capital ratio. In question 22 from the 2010 exam, we are given nearly the same information as that given to us from the 2011 and 2012 exam, except that we now have information on three types of reinsurers, and we're asked to calculate the total provision for reinsurance for company XYZ. The same type of information was given in questions from 2006 through 2009, but presented in slightly different ways. Yet all problems ultimately ask you to answer the same question posed from 2006 through 2012, and that is to compute the company's provision for reinsurance. With this in mind, we'll focus our review of the Feldblum article on parts 5, 6, and 7, which are the key exhibits which illustrate how to compute a company's provision for reinsurance. Schedule F serves several purposes. Parts 1 through 3 provide the supporting data for the company's assumed and ceded reinsurance accounting entries. Part 3 shows ceded premiums and losses by type of reinsurer. Parts 4 through 7 develop the provision for reinsurance. Part 4 is an aging schedule for recoverables on paid losses and loss adjustment expenses. Part 5 calculates the statutory provision for reinsurance recoverables from unauthorized companies. Part 6 calculates the provision for non-slow-paying authorized reinsurers. And Part 7 calculates the provision for slow-paying authorized reinsurers. And Part 8 of Schedule F restates the statutory balance sheet from a net to a gross basis. Next, we'll be commenting briefly on Parts 3 and 4 and on what sections within those parts you should review on your own. We strongly recommend that you get a copy of Schedule F as you are reviewing this article. The information in your manual on Schedule F Part 3, Summary of Ceded Reinsurance, Fronting Companies, and the 4 types of reinsurance contracts that are exempt from identification in column 5 is useful and informative. Review this on your own and move on. The information in your manual on loss and loss adjustment expenses is important to know since values from this part appear in Schedule F Part 5. The information on the commission footnote is useful and informative. Review this on your own and move on. The examples in your manual on two types of reinsurance treaties, a surplus share with provisional commission and an excess of loss reinsurance treaty, are very informative and have not been tested to date. Review this on your own and move on. The information in your manual on Schedule F, Part 4, the aging of ceded reinsurance recoverables on paid loss and LAE, is extremely important. Take the time to review the information on this page and the examples on this page in your manual carefully. On the exam, the most challenging computational question you will face from this section of the article is to calculate the total provision for reinsurance given three types of reinsurers. 1. An unauthorized reinsurer. 2. A slow-paying authorized reinsurer. And 3. A non-slow-paying authorized reinsurer. The formulas to compute the total provision for reinsurance are shown here. We strongly recommend that you commit to memory these formulas. Momentarily, we'll be going through examples of how each of these provisions are computed. If you wish to see how the provisions are computed in the annual statement, the computations for an unauthorized reinsurer are shown in Part 5. The computations for a slow-paying authorized reinsurer are shown in Part 7, and the computations for an authorized reinsurer that is not slow-paying are shown in Part 6. Part 6 of Schedule F calculates the statutory penalty for overdue recoverables from authorized reinsurers who are not designated as slow-paying. To determine whether a reinsurer is slow-paying or not, a ratio is calculated of recoverables more than 90 days overdue to all recoverables on paid loss and loss adjustment expense, plus amounts received in the prior 90 days. Now, if the ratio is greater than 20%, the reinsurer is classified as slow-paying. Otherwise, the reinsurer is not slow-paying. Amounts in dispute are excluded from both the overdue recoverables and the total recoverables. And this penalty is carried to footnote 3 on Schedule F, Part 7. Notes: 1. The treatment of recoverables more than 90 days past due is the same for all reinsurers, whether authorized or unauthorized, and whether slow-paying or not slow-paying. And 2. For reinsurers that are not slow-paying, the provision for reinsurance is 20% of the recoverables that are more than 90 days past due, including amounts in dispute. And finally, there is no provision for reinsurance for amounts in dispute that are not yet 90 days past due. To understand how to compute the provision for overdue authorized reinsurance, let's look at this example closely. The Safety Insurance Company is a commercial fire carrier specializing in large risks. Safety has a 100% quota share reinsurance with Secure Reinsurance Company, and Secure is the only reinsurer of Safety. Secure is licensed and authorized to conduct business in Safety's domiciliary state. During the past year, Secure has denied liability for 2 large claims and has been slow paying in several other claims. Safety has asked Secure for a letter of credit of $40 million, which Secure provided on November 15th of 1995. The letter of credit covers recoverables on paid losses, recoverables on unpaid losses, and unearned premiums, but not the 2 claims for which Secure has denied liability. Safety has filed suit to recover the $12 million related to the November 14th, 1994 claim, and the case is currently in litigation. Safety is discussing the March 10th, 1995 claim with Secure, but no suit has been filed as of yet. Safety also has $8 million of unearned premium reserves ceded to Secure. Safety's reinsurance treaty does not define the due date for the payment for Secure or the date on which claims are to be presented to the reinsurer for payment. Assume that Safety enters the claim for recoverable at the time the claim is paid. So based on the given information and the claim payment schedule shown above, the question is, what is the provision for reinsurance that Safety Insurance shows on its balance sheet on page 3 at 12/31/95? Well, first, we'll need to determine whether Secure is a slow payer or not. So first, let's look at Safety's total recoverable on paid loss and LAE. And that amount is $36,500, and it's obtained from the two amounts that Safety has paid for which Secure denies liability, and that's $18,500, plus the $1.5 paid by Safety to the claimant but unpaid by Secure to Safety, plus the $2.5 claim payment paid by Safety to the claimant but remaining unpaid by Secure to Safety, plus the $4,000 claim payment made by Safety to the claimant but unpaid by Secure to Safety, and finally the $10,000 payment made by Safety to the claimant but remaining unpaid from Secure to Safety. And all of that is equal to $36,500. Next, the total amounts on paid loss and LAE in dispute, we saw those earlier here as these two payments. They equal $18,500, and so the total recoverable on paid loss and LAE, excluding amounts in dispute, is $18,000, which is $36.5 minus $18.5. Next, let's look at the aging of recoverables overdue by various states. 1. 30 to 90 days. That would be $14,000, which is equal to the $4,000 claim here plus the $10,000 claim here. And amounts more than 120 days overdue, that's $22,500, which is equal to the two claims for which Secure denies liability, which is the $12,000 claim and $6,500 claim, plus two other amounts, the $1,500 claim paid on 7/20/95 and the $2,500 claim paid on 7/19/95, which amounts to 4, the total being $22,500, which equals the total recoverable due, as we saw up here, $36,500. Next, we'll compute the amounts recovered in the past 90 days. That was $4,000, which is equal to the $3,000 claim that was paid by Secure to Safety on 10/29 and the $1,000 claim that was paid by Secure to Safety on 12/12/95. And so the overdue amounts, excluding disputed amounts, is equal to $4,000, which is the $22,500 minus the $18,500, and therefore the key ratio is equal to 18.2%, which is equal to 4 over 18 plus 4. And the conclusion is that Secure is therefore not a slow-paying authorized reinsurer. The reinsurance schedules shown next are as of 12/31/95. Although the column numbers for the most recent Schedule F exhibits have changed, the basic procedure for computing provisions for reinsurance remains the same. Step 2. Complete Schedule F. As you can see here in column 4, the key ratio test is equal to column 1 divided by column 2 plus 3. Now, since Secure is not slow paying, the overdue amounts in column 1 are carried to column 5. For these reinsurers, amounts in dispute that are excluded from the total recoverable in column 2 are carried to column 6. 20% of the column 6 amount is reported in column 7. Added to this figure is 20% of the overdue amount in column 5, and the sum is reported in column 8. This is the penalty carried to footnote 4 on part 7.